I still love New Hampshire, and I always will. And here's what we're going to do. Now we take this campaign to the entire country. We're going to fight for every vote in every state. We're going to fight for real solutions that make a real difference in people's lives.
We have sent a message that will echo from Wall Street to Washington, from Maine to California. And that is that the government of our great country belongs to all of the people and not just a handful of wealthy campaign contributors and their super PACs.
All right, that was 2016 Democratic presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders earlier tonight, responding to the results out of New Hampshire. Of course, Sanders beat Clinton by a huge margin. Joining us now live from Bedford, New Hampshire, is our own Ed Henry. Ed, you know, go back to '92 and 2008. New Hampshire's been very good to the Clintons. Not this year. This was a really, she lost every demographic.
Right, and it was a drubbing because I was on the ground today with some of the Clinton volunteers and advisors in Nashua, and what they were saying to me privately off camera was, look, Bernie Sanders has had a big lead. We just want to get this down to a loss of single digits. Let it be 5 points, 6 points. Slow the Bernie momentum. Instead, you know, it's not complete yet, but with something like 92% in, it's a 20, 21-point drubbing for Hillary Clinton. So they did not close the gap. And you're right. Look, the Clinton camp has been trying to lower expectations by saying Bernie Sanders is from the neighboring state of Vermont. Well, as you note, Bill Clinton did quite well here. Didn't win, but came in second and became the comeback kid in '92. And then Hillary Clinton, after losing Iowa, coming in third in '08, won here. So it has been kind to the Clintons, and it wasn't this time. Quickly, I'll run through some of the other numbers you mentioned. Hillary Clinton took a hit on who do you, does being honest and trustworthy matter to you? 70–80% went to Sanders. That shows that there's an ethical drag here. Young people, 80–85% going to Bernie Sanders. That's an enthusiasm problem for Hillary Clinton. And then finally, independents went big, 70–80% for Bernie Sanders. So even if Hillary Clinton limps through and gets the nomination, she has a real problem maybe in the general election with independents. On the positive side for Hillary Clinton, let's not forget the calendar is going to get more kind. We're going to start going south, South Carolina, Georgia, states where the African-American vote will matter and where Hillary Clinton has a clear advantage, as Joe Trippi was saying. So Hillary Clinton might be able to last it out here. But final point is, look, the Democrats don't do winner take all like the Republicans do in a lot of states. It's proportional. So with the money that Bernie Sanders is getting over the internet and some of the momentum he has, he can hang around for a long time and drag this out and make it a bloody struggle. And even if Hillary Clinton prevails in the end, she could be very weakened. Yeah. And look, after a deadlock in Iowa, go ahead.
Yeah, well, he made it very clear, meaning Sanders tonight, he's going all the way. He's not getting out of this race any too soon. Why is it assumed, and I saw this, a big part of the coverage tonight, why is it assumed that Hillary Clinton will get a larger percentage of the minority vote?
Well, because of Bill Clinton and their attachment with the African-American community over the years, number one. Number two, based on polling, I mean, we were using polls to say Bernie Sanders has a double-digit lead, so I think in New Hampshire, and that turned out to be accurate, and I think we need to be fair and say there are polls down in South Carolina, for example. There was a recent NBC one I remember using a couple weeks ago that suggested Hillary Clinton had I forget the number, but in the range of 50–60-point edge among African-Americans. That poll might be wrong. Maybe there'll be others that show that the edge is not that big. But there has been data, Sean, suggesting she has an edge. However, after a deadlocked Iowa and now the way things are trending in New Hampshire tonight, the latest number is Bernie Sanders with something like 13 delegates out of New Hampshire, 9 for Hillary Clinton here. What does that mean? It means, at least for now, we have a new frontrunner, and that's Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. Great story. Ed, thank you so much. Joining us now with reaction, Fox News contributor Monica Crowley, Democratic strategist Penny Lee. Monica, you keep reminding our audience that this is a lot deeper for Hillary because we now officially have confirmed that an FBI investigation is ongoing. The Justice Department, in fact, will stay on this case. Then it becomes a big political football. What happens next after this?
Well, you know, we don't know because we have limited information coming out of the FBI investigation. But what happened to her tonight, and there are two things going on here. You're right, Sean. Number one, she's got the FBI investigation, which is looming over her like a sword of Damocles. Anything could happen. But secondarily now, what we're seeing in terms of these election results is near catastrophic for her. I mean, this is a woman with 100% name recognition. She had the endorsements of every major Democrat in the state of New Hampshire. She won New Hampshire 8 years ago, and yet now she is losing to the disheveled 74-year-old socialist by a whopping 21 points.
Yeah, I know. There's
something else really important here, Sean, because to me the biggest story here is that she lost among women. Bernie Sanders won women by 55%. But going forward into South Carolina and some of these states, whereas you were just talking to Ed Henry about the African-American vote, in the state of New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders won 49% of the non-white vote. Those are two huge red warning signs for her on the political side, never mind the legal side with the FBI investigation.
All right, so if Bernie Sanders now, both in Iowa and New Hampshire, and I would argue that Bernie Sanders won Iowa, separate story. But if she's losing young people and she's losing women, and it's assumed, and you point out that Bernie is doing much better with the minority vote than people have predicted, that tells me that Bernie could actually do well in South Carolina and the South and beyond. And also the Democratic Party has moved solidly to the left. I think that's going to be a big factor as well.
Yes, Sean. I mean, well, first of all, Sean, let me just say congratulations to Senator Sanders. I mean, he ran a terrific campaign there in New Hampshire, and it was really great to see the enthusiasm and the record votes turn out. I mean, one of the things that's great about these highly contested primaries like you're seeing is the overwhelming, turnout that you're seeing both on the Republican and the Democratic side. So kudos to Senator Sanders tonight for a great win. But going forward, you're going to see a much more diverse electorate, as we've all talked about, as you all have mentioned here tonight. So it isn't going to be the same. I mean, you had Iowa and New Hampshire that geared a lot more liberal than the rest of the country. You have a lot more diversified, and you have, Hillary Clinton that has already operations on the ground. So I think it's not all lost. One state does not make the nomination, as we see. Only 2% of the electorate is in.
But as Steve Hayes pointed out, there's been a 60-some-odd point swing in this race in the state of New Hampshire. That, by any definition, is a complete meltdown of a campaign. I watched Hillary tonight. She wasn't as angry as she was in Iowa, but you could sense it was in the background a little bit. And you know she was frustrated, and you know that she didn't want to lose. This was an embarrassing loss for her.
Yeah,
and there's no other way to spin it.
You know what, Sean, two other trends. One, we're seeing national polls that show her now running about even with Bernie Sanders. He's drawn even in a couple of national polls, so that seems to be trending toward him. And also the other big story is the overwhelming rejection of Mrs. Clinton by millennial voters. Bernie Sanders won the kids by 80%. Okay, so that
amazing.
is a whole new generation is rejecting Mrs. Clinton.
All right, and Penny, let me go to another issue that we've talked about a lot, and that's Hillary does not have a likability factor. And when 60% of the electorate overall thinks that you're a liar and dishonest and untrustworthy, as many polls have pointed out, how does that person get elected to the White House?
Well, and you also see in many times polls after polls that she has the experience to lead this country. That is
You're not
the
addressing my question, though.
Of leadership that they want. So there's many factors that go into who they choose to vote for.
But Penny,
and so there's different factors, whether it be experience, whether it be leadership or other things. So Mrs. Clinton is going to put on a very dogged race going forward.
If 60% of the electorate thinks you're dishonest and untrustworthy, how do you win?
Again, you go back to your other strengths, and there's many issues in which, or there's many criteria in which people, where they're going to have a chance, in this contested. I mean, Bernie's going to be in there for a while, and you're going to see it being tested, and so you're going to see that character, and people are going to have that chance to vet her, have a chance to vet Bernie, and they're going to be able to see what mettle and who they want to put into the White House.
All right, thank you both for being with us.
Sean, I just want to add what I've been saying to you for months now, which is that I don't think the Democratic nominee is going to be either one of these two.
Very interesting. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all if that turns out to be true. All right, thank you both.